standing remove all headwear, turn your attention to those stars and stripes on the floor, and join us in the singing of our national anthem, performed today by the Maverick Machine. And welcome once again to the Taylor Center, President Arena, of Minnesota State University. This first round NSRC tournament game between the Beavers of Bemidji State and your Minnesota State Mavericks.
And welcome back to another broadcast here on the MBN Network. You are watching men's basketball here on the MBN Network. As usual, I'm your play-by-play man, Brian Kelly, alongside my partner, Jordan O'Grady. Jordan, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Here for some put-up or shut-up basketball here tonight in the first round of the NSIC Conference Tournament here. And it looks to be a good one. The Mavericks here in a three-way tie, but hold the overall first place in their respective division at a 14-8 record. And against number 8, Bemidji State here, look to take care of business real quick and jump out to an early lead on the Beavers.
And last time these two teams met was just a short time ago up in Bemidji, and Minnesota State took care of that one. 77-66 was that final score.
Yeah, big win, and they started to get together somewhat, both offensively and defensively down the stretch here, and lost the last game we had here, but that's more of resting a couple guys, and things were already locked up, so there wasn't a lot of significance in that game. But here we go. I mean, all bets are off here, you know. Doesn't matter what you did last game. Ultimately, it doesn't even matter what you did all season. Of course it does, but it's one shot. Who can throw the haymaker? Who can take care of business right off? And we're about to find out. Right now, the seeding means nothing, and the Mavericks just got to come out and do what they do, is get after them down in the paint and have good offensive possessions and shut down the Beavers. But all pressure's off Bemidji State when you really think about it. They got nothing to lose being a heavily unfavored team in this matchup, and just can come out and play rock-solid basketball and hope for the best.
And what are your keys to the game for the Mavericks?
Mavericks just got to find more consistency offensively. I think they have a little bit of a size and athletic advantage here in this contest. So, you know, you got to take care of that stuff early and do well down the paint. We know Kirksey, who is only 18 points away from having 1,000, and then Krieger himself is only 25 away from having 1,000. So a lot of cool accolades that being garnered tonight, as well as a first-round win. And the tip is underway, and here we go.
And
inside President Arena.
And the tip just happened 1 minute after 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Anderson with the turn hook is good, and that's exactly what the Mavericks ordered right away.
Yeah, right away, what I was speaking about there, and that's a good job. Good feed, good job not wasting time dribbling the ball by Carlos and getting it up and in.
And what did you said to get off to that fast start? The Mavericks aren't a great home team by any means. They get out to great starts the majority of the time they have played at home this season. But other than that, they either come out tremendously slow or tremendously fast. As that right there is Bader, as he gets that for the Beavers to go, and it's tied at 2.
Yeah, it's with the Mavericks. You don't get the yin and yang or both sides of it, however you want to look at it. Some nights, as you said, they come out to a blazing start and really dominate for almost a whole first half. Big 3-ball there right away by Juwan McLeod. And they kind of, take the foot off the gas pedal, start killing some laps or some minutes, if you will. And, they got to keep it down. This is playoff basketball. How many times throughout my life just watching Division I mid-major basketball where you have some laps for just a certain amount of time, it can go downhill south. And a big answer. And
both teams are trading shot for shot here early on, as it's a quick 5 points for both sides on 2 consecutive trips. And here's the block pass, and that's a nice turnaround baseline move there by Anderson, rebounded by Kirksey, and he'll go shoot 2.
It's a good job so far. Good job giving the looks down in the paint. I'm pretty sure Coach Matt Margenthaler has a concerted effort with, as most coaches in basketball. You need to get touches down low, and we all know how it helps when you get touches down low. Playing against a 2-3, as we see the Beavers already in. First one good by Kirksey. They'll start collapsing. You had 2 guys there on there, and the pass wasn't there under the basket. Good effort by Anderson going up with it, but it's going to be there. And those quick kickouts back to Juwan McLeod and guys like that, they'll really start getting some open looks from outside the arc.
My biggest key for the Mavericks in this game, tell me if this is not the biggest one you should check a mark by, is that free throw shooting.
Well, it's kind of like field goal kicking or anything in those clutch moments in any other sport. But wow.
And Hoffman, that contested 3, as he makes an absolute dagger in the face of Carlos Anderson.
Beautiful shot, too. As you said, the hand right in his face from Anderson, but confidently steps up into it and drains it. But going back to the free throws, that's a beautiful point there. It's that, the Mavericks certainly have had their lulls in free throw shooting department in games. And other times they've been in the high 70s, low 80s, which is definitely a big advantage for them. But, that could be a big factor going down the stretch. And another thing, if we're talking about things that have kind of been their Achilles heel, beautiful shot there. My goodness
gracious. Bemidji State comes out absolutely on fire, as they are 4 for 4 from the field, but 3 for 3 from beyond the arc.
Yeah, Hoffman and Bader fully confident in their ability, as Kirksey gets one to bounce off the backboard and in there. Like I said at the beginning of this game, they're playing with no pressure.
Yeah.
There's yes, there's pressure. I shouldn't say absolutely none, but you get my point, is that you're an 8 seed. You're expected to come in here and lose, and I don't mean that in a completely derogatory way, but, you're not expected to come in here and be a number 1 seed. So, and there it is again.
And Derek Thompson, he'll add his name into the mix of 3-point field goals.
Well, what making this so dangerous right now is coming in here very hot, and you got 3 guys right away connecting from deep, and that's 3 guys on 3 straight possessions, 3 different guys on 3 straight possessions that have knocked down big shots in contestedness.
And there's a nice ball movement there, as Anderson will take that one to the hole and 1.
See, and that all really got set up there by that skip pass, realizing getting down low, back to the other side. And then once Anderson got the ball, he had a lane to choose and get down there, and that was just a good job of seeing it and executing.
Anderson, the last time these 2 teams played, back on the 6th of February, he had himself quite a little bit of a game, as he scored 13 points, but also had 7 boards to go along with it. And that's kind of something that we need to expect from that big senior back there at number 2.
Oh yeah, they have multiple options, 3 to 4 on a court, offensively speaking, at a time where any given night, one of those guys can have that outing, and of course the majority of the time, recently at least, it's been Kirksey and Krieger, and they've been playing well. And as I mentioned, they're both very close on some milestones scoring-wise in their career, and tonight could be it. And hopefully they get a win, where if not, they can continue going on with that into next week weekend in the rest of the conference tournament.
And that one's thrown away by Bemidji State, their first turnover here tonight. And that's one thing that Minnesota State does awfully well. They, even in transition or even on just a set defensive play, they really force you to make careless mistakes with the basketball.
Yeah, and that's bigly, I would say, a big benefit from their just overall athleticism. You know, they got really fast hands and they got quick feet, and sometimes they can get a little bit out of position by being a little too over aggressive or overzealous and overplaying a guy, if you know what I mean. And you know, sometimes they got to settle down, but also that kind of goes back to what we were saying too. It kind of plays sometimes into their lull. They'll kind of simmer down and they won't be in position, and they'll not do enough compared to doing too much. So it's kind of finding a fine balance defensively. A fine balance there defensively of how much to get after them and really make them go to the rim. But right now they're doing an okay job. Just Bemidji's made some really crucial shots early here.
And it turns out that it will be Derek Thompson that touched it last for Bemidji State. So it will be on the air ball as Kirksey will take a three of his own, and that one falls short. Rebounded by McNallen. And there it is again, right then and there, as another turnover is created by the active hands of number 0, Jawan McLeod in white.
Yeah, they do. You know, most of the time, that's definitely a travel there by Kirksey. Had a 1-2 and then put the ball down. And yeah, that was a fine point right there. That was a good job by Anderson slacking off and McLeod forcing them to the outside of the paint, and he stepped up and helped, perfect time and able to knock the ball loose. And that's what they do right there. They do a really good job anticipating when they need the slide and when they need the help. And that was a prime example of it right there.
And if Minnesota State wants to make back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances, they got to take care of business here tonight, because if they lose this one, I got to say, the chances of getting into that NCAA tournament are very slim.
Yeah, very slim. I mean, in most cases, in a lot of teams in basketball, especially D2, you got to win the conference. And even at the D1 level and some of the lower conferences, you have to win to get in. And that's a mindset you got to think the Mavericks are going in with. They're not even potential or possibly, thinking about that kind of automatic bid or anything like that. Though they had a decent season, not enough where I think that's something that they should be given here. But it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, they got their own opportunity here tonight, and then hopefully in the next 3 days on March 3rd, 4th, and 5th to bring home a conference title and go dancing.
And as we take a look here, this is Minnesota State's 97th campaign as a varsity sport for Minnesota State men's basketball here on campus. And in 2,253 games, they got 1,354 victories and not even 900 defeats, and that's a winning percentage of 600. So to me, that's a pretty darn good percentage and a very good program that we've got here at Minnesota State.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you're about, not to dumb it down or sound sarcastic, but anytime you're over a 500 mark, you're winning technically. And then I was also looking at an interesting stat I saw on head coach Matt Margenthaler, was that he's slightly above a 700 win percentage, and just for that to be winning almost 3/4 of your games in your tenure here at Minnesota State, and not just here but anywhere, that is quite impressive feat, and it's an attest to what the product of players he's able to recruit and get here, and then also how the players perform on the court under his guidance. So they do a great job here, and that's another great job. Help defense there by Bumgardner, stepping in there, taking on the contact from the bigger offensive player.
And like you were saying, Coach Matt Margenthaler is in his 18th season here at Minnesota State. And I was just a young buck when he started here, as the pull-up jumper in the lane from Nixon is a little too strong.
Yeah, a little cold here offensively. They're doing a good job overall defensively. Again, Bemidji not afraid to pull the trigger, and they're shooting quite well from behind and when it's been a contested shot.
After starting out 2 of 2 from the field, Minnesota State has just gone 2 for 10.
Yeah, both teams have definitely hit a little bit of a wall here scoring-wise. Getting some tough shots. The Mavericks really tightened up the bolts here defensively and made it very difficult since those 3 straight makes by the Beavers.
Krieger will attempt a 3. That one falls short. Morgan with the rebound looking to push as he goes and is turned backwards. And that's one thing, and there's another almost turnover forced there again. That would have been the Bemidji State's 4th. But that is, again,
yeah, I mean,
it's just like that, like what you've been saying. They're playing like, well, especially Bemidji State anyway. They're playing like they legitly are just playing a pickup basketball game, and they're just kind of just going with the flow.
You know, and I think that's kind of where they have to be. They kind of want to, you know, obviously a team that didn't have much success during the regular season, they still may be in a process of kind of finding who they are or what they should be doing offensively. But right now, they're having some good looks, and that was a great little pick and roll there on the wing by the Beavers there. Nice little touch pass inside to get it up and in for number 15 there.
That's Cody Landwehr.
Yeah, great job. Good body presence there to recognize where he was on the floor.
As Ash will take one from deep, as they have gone absolutely ice cold from beyond the arc.
Right now, it's kind of one of those things you got to think the Mavericks settle down a little bit. You're in a miscommunication there as an easy turnover for the Mavericks, and it'll be going back the other way.
And I can attest to this. When you have a lead and you're an underdog, I mean, you're up 5 with the score being 16-11. You tend to play sometimes up and past the level when you play so relaxed. But then when you realize that you're up, you kind of get a little nervous and you're like, okay, we got to keep adding and pouring it on. As that's a nice dunk there from Carlos Anderson.
Definitely gets the crowd going very well inside the Breslin Arena, that one. Defender was a little overzealous on him, able to sneak the pass around, and Carlos did everything else from there, and that was a great finish.
As that one will get stuck, as that's a jump ball and will be in possession for Bemidji State. As Derek Thompson will have his seat here, comes back into the ball game as Logan Bader. And so far, so good from the field, as Bemidji State is shooting 60% here in the first 8+ minutes of the ball game. Allen Anderson guarded closely by Bumgardner. Landwehr, the pass off to Hoffman. Hoffman, corner, very contested 3, will wind up short. Bumgardner with the board.
Excellent defense by the forward and guards on the outside from Aaron Holz. But that was a great job of Carter Ash down low, working both sides of the offensive player and making them guessing, shut down passing lanes of where the setup shop. So overall, you got to give that to Carter Ash on that last possession, not allowing that entry pass that the Beavers were looking for.
And that's the biggest thing when it comes to this. When Minnesota State is lacking defensively, they lack that defensive presence on the low post, especially when it comes to allowing that offensive rebound, because the last few homestands, they've allowed 10+ points just on offensive rebounds alone.
Yeah, and that's tough. That's something you got to work on and clean up. And that's just, sometimes it's just simply being a little bit more physical and finding a little more passion to go after those rebounds or really get a good solid box out on the offensive player there. But right now, Carter doing a good job of just that, and see how it pays off down the road here, because the Beavers aren't necessarily a physical presence as some of the other teams we've seen in the conference. And we know when the Mavericks see a guy that's much bigger but also skilled down low with the ball offensively, they tend to struggle a bit there, and that really makes a good in and out game for the opposing team.
No team has scored a point here in the last 2.5 minutes. And that will end right there as Cody Landwehr will take that one to the rack.
Yeah, good job of being able to get around the Maverick defender, and a nice easy finish to the rim there.
And Carlos Anderson so far the leading scorer. But here's Kirksey with the turnaround jumper, very highly contested. And that's a nice move there by Anderson, but he'll take that one himself and throw up a brick.
See, they gave the problem there with that is they gave a good feed down to Kirksey. They cleared out, and then I don't know if Carter Ash was not on the same page there, but there was no reason for him to come down into the paint there. He just congested everything and made it very difficult for Kirksey to get off a good shot instead of that one-on-one matchup he had. They need to communicate a little bit better because, you know, sometimes they make it harder on themselves in that instance there.
And Kirksey with the entry pass, and that's his bread and butter as he finally gets into the scoring column here. Excuse me, he's already been in it as he's got himself 5 early points. Yeah, 13 away from 1,000 points here, so that's going to be really cool to see if he can hit it. Not only him, but also Krieger 25 away. And I don't think it could come on a better night, too, especially when you're in the playoffs. You know, the regular season has ended. And I think for Kirksey, this would be a special one, especially if you can do it at home. Absolutely. It definitely will add to the happiness and joy if the Mavericks are able to pull out with a win here. Down by 3 with 9:17 left in the first half. It's been kind of a fast-paced game. Not a lot of dead balls here, but also not a lot of offensive production by either team. You know, the Beavers came out early and hit those 3 straight threes, and that kind of set the tone for a while. But if you want to talk about a lull of scoring, this is certainly the game to watch. And let's see what they can do to differentiate themselves on offense here a little bit, as we know the attack may become a little stale sometimes for the Mavericks, and they start relying on too many athletes just making plays rather than playing good team basketball. And if we take a look at the playoff bracket for the men's tournament this year in the 2019 NSIC tournament, Minnesota State, every single game will go on to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. But those games will be played Sunday, March 3rd, and those are the quarterfinals. And if Minnesota State or Bemidji State, whichever team advances, they will take on the winner of the MSU Moorhead and Southwest Minnesota State. And to me, that favorable matchup, you take a look back at some of those key matchups. The team that gives Minnesota State the biggest scare out of those two teams is obviously MSU Moorhead, as they came in here and Minnesota State pulled off a last-second victory, but only a 1-point victory for that matter. You know, when you look at that kind of stuff, at least my personal feeling about basketball like this, and just growing up watching college basketball where you had to win, no automatic bid kind of thing, and, you know, I don't want to say you throw those things out the door. You definitely gain valuable knowledge from watching your film from your previous games. And it's kind of like that old thing. It's hard to beat the same team 3 times, especially if it's a close game. And you just got to come out. All these tournament games are going to be difficult in their own way. You're going to face a different adversity because of the pressure you're going to feel from it being a win or go home situation here. And right now, you look at a number 8 seed in Bemidji, and they're up 5 here, a little over halfway through this first half. And, you know, they got to be ecstatic with how they're playing and competing right now. But, you know, you just got to see if the Mavericks can turn on the Jets. But right now, you got to be very happy because they're playing rock solid all around, the Beavers are. Bemidji State comes in, and this is what I was going to bring up, but I wanted to wait until it actually happened. With 5 to shoot, here's McLeod with 4 in the corner. That one's too strong. Brought down by Derek Thompson. And it was that 2-3 zone, that pesky 2-3 zone for Minnesota State. And there it is, Boshi, the head coach for Bemidji State, finally decides to pull it out. But why do you think he waited this long to finally do so? He's going to find a look, and, you know, if you can play solid man-to-man and cover up the athletes of Minnesota State, I mean, you're in a lot better position. And it looks like they're going to check the shot clock and say it hit the rim. Emphatic Matt Markenthaler let the official know that it did not, and I think that's the consensus here. Or I may be wrong. I'm not sure. I think they may have been checking the shot clock. And they did. It was the shot clock, and they do reset it. As I said, it did graze the rim. And back to the 2-3, you know, they wanted to see what they had. Maybe they could match up. And when you do that, that's really going to be a total shutdown. And that's a great job by Jawan McLeod. Total shutdown of their offense if you can play man-to-man.
But the 2-3, when you need it, it really slows down the bigs, as you know, Krieger and Anderson and Kirksey down low. You have to slow them down as much as possible. It's almost like some would say damage control in a sense here. So the 2-3 probably started showing signs of wearing off in the man, and now they're having great success. You just want to make it difficult because we know the Mavericks don't have the greatest half-court sets, and they don't, maybe to a fault, where they don't run them enough, whether it's practice or in a game here, but they start relying on too many individuals, and that's where the Mavericks go downhill quite often.
And to me, this is probably one of the best shooting lineups that they got on the floor. So to me, it makes... It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to go to that 2-3 zone. Now with Ash going to take a seat, here comes Krieger, because anyone on the Mavericks basically can actually shoot the three, and they shoot it at a pretty good rate.
Yeah, but I think, maybe it's me being more of a conservative person when it comes to sports or play calling or whatever you may have there. Oh, another great read by Jawan.
As that's McLeod's third steal of the game, and that leads to an easy transition basket.
Yeah, they really got their heads right up now, the Mavericks do, and they're really watching and observing what's going on and being able to recognize what's going on and attack there. 2 back-to-back steals by McLeod, and that's quite impressive there.
And that's 2 telegraph passes as he just baited him to get that pass. And here's Kirksey with the contested tip. Looked like Kirksey may have got that one with Ja Morgan with 4 to shoot. Guarded contestedly by Anderson, and Krieger with some emphatic elbow gestures there.
Yeah, you got to be careful with what a spin move.
And that's a nice move there by Jawan McLeod. He'll go to the line to shoot 2.
He's playing with a lot of energy right now, and it shows in his play. Great first step on that spin move to get by and go up and get fouled. Almost able to create the 3-point play. Nonetheless, he'll shoot 2.
And so far from the free throw line, the Mavericks are just 3 of 6.
Yeah, not a percentage you want to see early on. Hopefully that can pick up, because we all know, any basketball fans, free throws are one of those Achilles heels that in hindsight you go, wow, if we made 4 more of those or 5 more, whatever the number may be, the game would be a totally different thing. And right there going 0 for 2, and that certainly does not help the Mavericks there for quite obvious reasons.
As Jawan McLeod, that's a nice steal by number 10, the lefty, Quincy Anderson, and has that one stripped from behind by Morgan.
For as lackadaisical as some of these offensive possessions have been for the Beavers, Morgan has really done his best to kind of make the best of them, and he's done most of the work so far for the Beavers, other than a few in the scoring column. But he's really keeping the team from going off the hinges these last few possessions, if you will.
The Mavericks haven't had a lead since it was 5-2 with 19:01 to go, or with only 59 seconds into the game.
Yeah.
And Matt Morgenthaler is furious, and this will send number 5 for Bemidji State, Derek Thompson, to the line.
It's one of those things. The call was made by the official under the basket, and he couldn't see the front of Kirksey as his hands were straight up. Maybe got the leg or the thigh into him a little bit, but I felt like that was a poor call to make, especially from his perspective, when the official on the wing here had a clear look in and clearly did not see the same thing. But nonetheless, it still counts, and Kirksey will have a seat on the bench.
As Kirksey's got himself 2 personal fouls, and so far only 3 team fouls.
And we talk about this too, the team fouls are 3 with just over 6 to go. That's a pretty good number for the Mavericks.
Yeah.
But 2 of them being on Kirksey, that's something you don't want to see.
And that's a nice 3 there as Carter Ash puts it to 1.
Yeah, that's like the ice scraper and the defrost on your car finally cracking through and scraping it off. Took the lid off the proverbial barrel there. Great job by Carter Ash lining that one up and knocking it down.
As Thompson making it tough for Krieger to defend, and there's another offensive board as that one right there was Landwehr getting the best of Quincy Anderson.
Yeah, got caught watching the ball go up and not getting the man there. 2 guys under the basket, and Ashton Krieger couldn't pull it down. But good fight. Yeah, it's back-to-back threes there. Now Quincy Anderson knocking one down.
But Matt Mankato is a little bit more teary-eyed there, as he kind of likes what he saw there, as Quincy Anderson just made up for his mistake by tying this ball game up at 24.
Yes, it's always good to put a little aloe lotion on the burn after that. Always make up for something you did wrong. Good return of points there for the Mavericks.
As that'll be on Krieger, his first.
And I'm sure the Beavers want to test these guys down low. As you can see, number 5 there, Derek Thompson, and number 15, Cody Landwehr, you know, both trying to be aggressive. And you saw when he went up to that basket last time, he definitely got into Krieger with the shoulder and maybe trying to assert some kind of dominance or show that they're not going to be timid by the much more talented bigs of Minnesota State.
And there it is. That's a nice pass there to Landwehr. He'll try to throw it off Quincy Anderson, but that one acts like an absorption, and that will not go very far as it is corralled by Quincy.
Yeah, good job by Quincy of being a heads-up basketball player. Good rebound by Nixon. Heads-up basketball player, and recognizing that that's probably going to be the move coming back at him to back up and find the ball. That was a great job there.
As an offensive board decides to go mute for Minnesota State.
You know, they're getting a little too quick with their shot. Sometimes they just need to work the ball around. And I know they're not the greatest half-court offense, but sometimes it's one pass and a shot, and that's just not going to get it done, as Thompson, the little baby hook there under the basket for the Beavers, goes in. You know, it's just not efficient offense. You don't make the defense work. It's almost a free rest for them to just go up and grab a long rebound.
As Krieger has yet to find himself in the scoring column, and that entry pass, and they're going to call a foul there on Thompson, as he does not agree with the call necessarily, but that'll be his first, team 5th.
Yeah, fans took a little bit of an exception to that, but he did get him with a back of the forearm as he was playing the ball, maybe inverted, but nonetheless, good job turning face in the hoop.
The only other game going so far in this NSIC tournament, actually, excuse me, there's 2. And those games right now are Wayne State College, the University of Mary down in Wayne, Nebraska, and out in Aberdeen, South Dakota, Northern State is taking it to Concordia St. Paul 34-19. And to me, that's nothing like what you expect. Is Northern State is definitely taking care of business as the #1 overall seed in the NSIC play.
Yeah, and I think they were definitely a team above the rest of the conference, and obviously that was the case, but we saw them when they came here, and they really kind of had the whole package. Defensive inside, great high-low game, could shoot the ball from outside, had bigs that could even handle and shoot the 3 ball, and they're a very difficult team to go forward here in this conference tournament. But we also know if the Mavericks do have to come across them, that we can compete and give them a run for their money, and they're certainly not invincible.
And one of the things is the Mavericks were a better road team and a better team that was in a neutral site. So for that being everything, if they get past this round, obviously, it's going to look like on paper Minnesota State might have the edge when it comes to their opponents that they will face down the road.
It's just funny. It's almost a complete anomaly that it's that way. You know, you would always think a team's going to play better at home, and you know, it's really not been the case this season for the Mavericks. For whatever reason, there could be a plethora of excuses, but that's exactly all they are at the end of the day, are excuses. And John Morgan on the good exit pass there knocks down a big 3 ball, and that pushes the lead up to 5 with 3.5 left here in the first half.
As Bumgarner, Aaron Holtz, Ash, Krieger, and Nixon find themselves on the court for the Mavericks with 3:20 to go. And that entry pass is tipped, as that was probably not a good decision by Bumgardner.
Yeah, it took the words right out of my mouth. Not a good look at all. He was definitely sandwiched in between two defenders. Really had no place to go with that pass. And this is not good. We see, I notice over here on the end of the bench, Carlos Anderson taking off the shoe, and the training staff taking a look at his left foot or ankle here. Maybe just a tape job, but not a good thing, a good look going forward here for the Mavericks.
As I believe this could be a tape job for, yeah, I believe it is. And that's a nice pass there from John Morgan to Landwehr.
And that's the second time Carter Ashe has gotten caught flat-footed. For as well as he's played here at moments down low, he's also gotten burned equally down low, just like that there. You know, that's a problem in a back rim three ball by Bumgardner, no good. You know, that's kind of the problem with the Mavericks in their depth. You get good flashes, very bright spots from them, but then you get stuff like that where you just get beat off the screen or beat around by the dribble to the rim, and it's really comes down to intensity and effort there with that effort.
And here's Derek Thompson going baseline with 10 as he fights that one over and puts the Beavers out to their biggest lead yet of 9.
And you can almost see it on the faces of the Mavericks, just underwhelming expressions on their faces here on the bench. And big rebound by Carson. Multiple players for the Beavers go down, and that's an easy lay-in for Aaronholz.
And that will decrease the lead to 7, and that's exactly what the doctor ordered here with under 2 to go. And if we're taking a look so far, I think the biggest impact player is number 3 in green, and as he takes that, drains the 15-footer. And that's John Morgan, as he continues to not want to go down here in this first half, as he's keeping his team, the Beavers, in this substantially. And I don't think without him, I don't think they would be where they are right now with a 9-point lead.
Oh, no, absolutely not. He's the gorilla glue, if you will, or the gorilla tape, whatever line of product you want to use of this team right now. He's doing all the little things offensively, and then, as you can see, he's jacking up the 3 balls and making them at a pretty high clip. And they are going to get Nixon with that. Both going for the ball. He did kind of come up and get him in the face. Maybe something you let him play through, but the official disagrees.
And that goes on Nixon, his first, and it's nice to see him not in foul trouble quite yet. And I think for the first time, I think all season, we will finally see neither team on both sides go shoot 1-and-1.
No, and that's quite surprising, and I'm not saying that sarcastically or jokingly, as Nixon just gets beat around there. Had a lot of contact, and John Morgan, number 3 for the Beavers in green, is having one heck of a night here and really doesn't want to go home early out of this conference tournament.
And this will be something as the Beavers come into play with a 9-17 record as Bumgardner's 3 rattles in and out.
Shot clock's off, 20 seconds left here. They can hold it for 1. And if you're a Bemidji State Beaver fan here, you got to be very happy that with this opening half performance here. They are absolutely dominating from outside the arc and offensively.
And there it is. Derek Thompson will get the last bucket as Bumgardner's half-court last-minute desperation heave falls well short. And Bemidji State with a surprising first half, up by 13.
Recent Minnesota State Mankato graduate Jacob Ball has a big idea: become a bilingual family physician serving rural America. As an honors student and varsity athlete, he studied Spanish, biology, and biochemistry. He also volunteered at a Mankato medical clinic and studied in Ecuador. He's now in medical school, one step closer to bringing his big idea to life. Big ideas, real-world thinking. Minnesota State Mankato. Go further at mnsu.edu.
Welcome back to the MBN halftime show presented by IT Solutions Center. And Jordan, this game is not what we expected it to be, with the Bemidji State Beavers going into halftime with a 13-point lead.
Yeah, not at all. And quite honestly, the Bemidji State Beavers just outplaying the Mavericks in all facets. Mavericks very cold shooting. They have a very streaky defensive setup right now. Sometimes they play good man. We saw there with multiple turnovers in a row, but then they go absent. They go MIA and not there. And they got to find something here quick because they're down 13. And this is, like I was saying earlier, this is why the regular season almost doesn't matter. You can throw it out the window because it's almost irrelevant. You just got to come out here, play hard-nosed basketball, make your shots, and play great, gritty defense. And that's exactly what the Beavers are doing right now. Mavericks don't have a whole lot going right now. Very stale offensive possessions, not shooting well at all. They have their little blitz and burst of it, but not enough to hang your hat on. And right now it's really showing just a poor effort in outing so far by the Mavericks.
And the two biggest reasons why Bemidji State's got this lead is number 3 and number 5 in the green, John Morgan and Derek Thompson.
Oh, and it's exactly like I said. John Morgan is that proverbial glue, holding everything together. You know, it may not be the greatest season, maybe a little broken and frayed, but he's that glue that's keeping that face back together so mom doesn't find out you broke it. And, you know, he's doing an excellent job dishing the ball off, shooting when open, and then when all else fails, when that shot clock's running down, pulling up and making a big shot every now and then. And they got to find the answer for him. And I really want to give credit to Thompson and Lodware down low. They're giving a heck of a fight to Krieger, Kirksey, and Anderson. And, you know, they're making them work down low, and they're not afraid to put their body into him and get after him. And right now you can see Anderson warming up back in the tunnel here, Breslin Arena, walking pretty gingerly on. I just caught it out of the corner of my eye here. And now who knows what that injury is going to play down the road, because that's a big threat offensively gone, per se, but also not playing at a full, and you know he's a live wire jitterbug, and he'll get going quick. So we'll see how that deals with his acceleration and get off here going towards the rim. Mavericks just got to come out and play better. It's flat out simple, just better on all facets.
One of the biggest takeaways for Minnesota State in that first half was the 5 turnovers they forced, and it was 2 on 2 consecutive plays by the bait of Jawan McLeod, and that is something. And also, I'll tell you this: the post defense by Carter Ash. Yeah,
well, he's had to step up. You know, Anderson and Kirksey with 2 fouls. Someone's got to come up and make a play in playoff time here. And right now, he's stepped to the bill a little bit, but there's also been times where he's just been completely out of position and maybe out physicaled, and they got to the rim easily for an easy 2 a couple of times. You know, we need to find more consistent play, but that's kind of the path you got to go. You got to rely on bench players to try to make something happen, and right now they're not doing quite good enough job here for the Mavericks.
And with that being said, that will wrap up our halftime show. The Mavericks find themselves down 13, 39-26 to Bemidji State here in the first round of the 2019 men's basketball NSIC tournament play. We will be right back with second half action. coming up for 6-7 minutes before the second half starts. So he must have actually had a lot more to say here this evening.
Oh, I'm sure he had a few choice words for the team because, like I said, they're not playing up to snub of where their record is indicative of so. Here we go. Another 20 minutes, and the last 20 minutes possibly, to prove who you are and keep your season alive and NCAA hopes alive.
And it will be Maverick basketball here to start the second half. And to take a look at the NSIC tournament scores from around the league, Northern State at halftime leads Concordia St. Paul in Aberdeen, South Dakota, 46-32. In Wayne, Nebraska, Wayne State is taking on the University of Mary, and Wayne State has an 8-point lead going into the second half. And this is the only one of the games right now that is currently underway. We are waiting on 5 others to get started, but all those tip times will be 7:30 Central Time. And here we go. We are underway here to start the second half with the Maverick basketball. As Kirksey with the little in-lane floater, and that's a great way to start the second half, especially for number 21.
Yeah, good find and good lay-in. You need that out of Kirksey to get going after spending a lot of time on the bench there.
And one of the things I got to give credit to is Bemidji State. They have held Krieger and Kirksey to only 7 points, but Krieger's been shut out here so far.
I mean, they're executing their game plan, and I'm sure that was the case coming into tonight's matchup with got to find a way to slow these guys down, and we'll live and die with whatever else we get from the other 3.
And Carlos Anderson, as he comes up wobbling a little bit, as you could tell that left ankle is bothering him quite a bit, and I wonder if they're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I'm sure they're definitely going to test it, just like in football, and a rookie corner comes in, they're going to just throw it at him, and I'm sure they're going to see where that ankle's at right here early on for Carlos.
As John Morgan will go to the stripe, and that foul was on Nixon, his second, and it's kind of nice to see, like we said in the first half, not many fouls, and it was just basically the referees letting them play.
No, not many fouls, but at one point when you looked up on the scoreboard when that half ended, there was a total of 5 points scored by the players out on the floor, and that simply is not going to get it done, as a considerable amount, if not all of them at one point, were bench players. And with that kind of production coming from the bench, a little bit of foul trouble, and good defense is being played by the Beavers, it's really not a good recipe right now for the Mavericks.
And Bemidji State starters have outscored Minnesota State in total, as the starters for the Beavers have scored 33 of their 41 points. And for the Mavericks, it has been on the side of 22. Sorry, I'm doing math while we're talking. 22 of the 30. So bench points are 8 apiece, which is not exactly something that you necessarily want to see if you're Coach Matt Margenthaler. You got to ask a little bit more from your starters and of your bench.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, you got to get more from the bench, but you got to be disappointed the way the offense has been playing. It's just stagnant, not a whole lot going on. They're going to say number 5, Derek Thompson, hit the line when he went after that loose ball. It'll remain Mavericks' possession.
Coming into this game, this was the 107th all-time meeting between Bemidji State and MSU. MSU leads the series 71-35, and MSU has won the last 4 against Bemidji State, especially coming on the road earlier this season, as Nixon gets that one to fall.
That was a good job by Nixon, but he's got to be careful. You stand over him like that, that ref is going to get you every time. And right there, he's got a little too cocky, standing up, not in good defensive position, almost gets blown by, but good job by Kirksey there, denying that low post feed.
And Kirksey there, that's something that we need to see as they go into what it looks like a man-to-man defense.
They want to really test them here and see where they are at tonight, because right now they've been able to outduel them, and that's a beautiful move.
And they're going to call a charge, and that's Kirksey's third.
Well, you can see right now just in this Bemidji State team and overall attitude of selflessness, and they're doing everything they can to win every last possession. And that's honestly, just watching it, is something that the Mavericks aren't doing. And right away, that's number 3 for Kirksey. And this is a very, very bad and could be a nerve-wracking, anxiety-ridden position. If you're a Maverick fan, you got arguably your best scorer now on the bench for at least 5 minutes, you would imagine here. And you got guys trying to step up and fill out shoes, as none other than number 3, John Morgan, hits another big 3 from the far wing here.
And not only are you losing Kirksey, one of the biggest players and factors on your team, as Krieger's 3 rattles in and out. You are taking away a top 10 conference scorer, and who is averaging almost 18 points a game. Coming into this, that's what he needs to get to 1,000, as Krieger will draw the foul and go to the line. But to me, that just strikes as just completely odd that he's already out of the game.
Well, I mean, that's something that's kind of happened to him more, or done to himself rather. I don't think it's necessarily the official's fault, but you know, he's on the bench with 3 now. And then quite simply, look at our guy Kevin Krieger. He's played 20 minutes. 0 for 4 from the floor, 0 for 3 from behind the arc. One of your stud scorers has not scored a single point here in this contest. And he's going to have the opportunity now out the line. But, I mean, you know, me and you both are kind of sitting here shaking our head. It's like, what can you do? Bemidji, you got to give credit to Derek Thompson and number 15, Cody Landwehr. They have come out and played their tails off down low, and they've done exactly what they've wanted to do. Play physical, keep the bigs and Krieger, Anderson, and Kirksey off the boards and off going to the rim, and, you know, they succeeded quite well.
As that will be Thompson's 3rd, and Bemidji State has Griffin Chase and Derek Thompson, 2 of their starters, already with 3 fouls here this evening.
Yeah, and I mean, that definitely attributes to how they're playing. They have to be this aggressive, you know. And I think looking at the rotation, they've let them play some long minutes here for Bemidji State, and that's maybe starting to show with a couple of these fouls here. But they've done a good job. You got to give credit to them. It's far from over yet, but Maverick showing a little sign of life here and getting some fouls.
And that's on John Morgan. And Morgan's got himself with 2.
You know, and I think that's probably the guy you got to look at most in terms of foul trouble. And that's really right now the one guy they couldn't afford to have check out of this game because of foul trouble. We'll see how that progresses through the game.
And 2 out of the 3 highest scorers for Bemidji State are in foul trouble. Or I guess you could say John Morgan is out of foul trouble, considering it's the second half and he's got 2.
Correct.
But Logan Landwehr is another guy that's a key factor here so far early on, as the Beavers find themselves, and John Morgan will launch one from deep.
And the Mavericks got
down
real
by
lucky.
Juwan McLeod.
They got real lucky. Sorry to cut you off there, Brian, but both Ash and the other Maverick defender got lost, didn't know who to switch to, and that left the very hot John Morgan wide open. Fortunately enough for the Mavericks, he was not able to connect.
And unfortunately, he was too strong. And Ash and Landwehr are having an absolute battle on the lower post. And that's a nice skip pass to Hoffman in the corner. Can't get that one to rattle home. Aaron Holtz looking to push. We'll dump it off to Anderson with the drive in the lane, and he goes good with the left.
Seems to still have enough to get off on that ankle here. Mavericks make a run to get it down to 10 here with just over 15 to go.
And that's what you like to see out of a senior leader in Anderson. As you can tell, he's clearly playing hurt, but he's just fighting through that pain. And there's a nice active hands again for Juwan McLeod.
Yeah, they're doing a good job of making it difficult and not allowing them to get an easy feed and easy work down low.
As McLeod and company are looking to score on back-to-back trips down on the offensive end. The skip pass to Anderson in the corner with 9 to shoot. Pull up 15-footer, no good. Brought down by Ash, and that's a nice big offensive board by the big fella.
Yeah, you can see the aggression on his face right now. He wasn't going to give that up without a fight. That was a good job.
And Krieger with the tip, and he gets it back himself. And he'll throw it out for the 3rd consecutive time. The Mavericks will find themselves with a clean and fresh shot clock.
Well, one thing you can see that they're doing with Anderson right now is when he catches a ball outside of the paint, they're going to give him some room because they know the only...
And they will get another offensive possession, as that's going to be a defensive foul on Bader,
if you will. And they got to find something here. This is I hate to harp on bad things, but they're almost falling into old tendencies.
Yep.
And when we spoke about it, their woes here at home, and it hasn't really mattered who the opponent was. There's never really been a consistent middle ground with their performance. They either play lights out here or they play with their lights out.
Yep.
And you're kind of seeing a little dose of that right now. I mean, the game is certainly within reach, but you just got to have a better overall consistency on offense right now. And you got to give credit to Carter Ash, who's being asked a lot, who's not necessarily known for his defensive prowess, to come and step in and try to defend these bigs who may not be the most talented with the ball down low, but are certainly putting up a heck of a fight and giving every last thing they got. And they're scoring with quite some success underneath the basket for the Beavers.
My question is, now with Carter Ash in the game and him taking the bigger of the 2 big men out there, I wonder if that's going to free up Kirksey for his one-on-one post game.
Yeah, they give him a good look there, at good position there, and I mean, it's got to do something here. I think they know the scorers, obviously, in Kirksey and Krieger, as we've touched on it, and they've done a heck of a job shutting them down as of pretty much the whole game here. And they got to keep doing it, but Kirksey or someone's got to step up and start taking it into their own hands.
As Aaron Holtz's 3 connects, and that's a big one as that breaks a streak for Minnesota State on the 3-point end of 6 straight misses from deep.
And that's what's needed. And oh boy,
that's a nice contest there by Ash, and a block by Ash, as that was huge defensive stance there for Carter Ash, as he had 2 big plays to not allow Bemidji State to score.
See, I don't know how Coach Matt Margenthaler is going to deal with this going forward. Beautiful pass and finish there to Thompson.
And if you're Ash, there's nothing you can do about that.
Oh, excuse me, number 15, Landwehr. Is Coach Matt Margenthaler okay with the half of defensive presence you're getting from Carlos Anderson right now? Because he got beat with very little contest there, and he's hobbling around worse and worse as he progresses through the second half. And he's going to remain in the game. I'm not a basketball coach by any means, but when someone's injured and walking like that, I don't know if their production is outweighing the lack of production on the defensive end there.
I mean, I don't really know, but he's your leading scorer right now with 12 points, and that's kind of saying something to the kind of night that MSU is having offensively.
You're absolutely. Please don't let me discredit what he's done offensively, but that's kind of the old Libra skill right now, is how much can you take of a 4-man defense. And they're going to call a no foul on that contact, and then Kirksey.
And that's Kirksey's 4th.
And wow, unnecessary, no need. They're in transition, the ball's in front of you. You got nothing to really gain coming from behind to try to strip that away, other than, of course, your 4th foul in.
Oh, excuse me, that's his 3rd, so they must have given.
Yeah, we must have messed up on the last one. I thought they called it on Kirksey, that previous one, but apparently not. So thankfully, that was only his 3rd there.
I wonder who that last one went on.
Yeah, it slipped by me. I swore they called it on Kirksey as well, but thankfully they didn't there.
Interesting.
But nonetheless, you just can't have that either way.
Well, we fed you false information, I guess, but that was a miscommunication.
And a good job there by Kirksey at knocking that one away.
And that's a nice pass there by Aaron Holtz as for a brief moment there, Bemidji State, and here comes the double team on Kirksey as he can't get that one to go. The 7-footer is a no-go, and Kirksey's been struggling from his bread and butter spot here this evening.
Yeah, he hasn't really had a strong night. No Maverick shooter has, for that matter. And right now, Bemidji is still in control. I mean, it's below 10 points, down to a 7-point game here. Mavericks got to attack offensively. Good job by pressuring that.
And that's another turnover here by Bemidji State, as the turnovers are 10-5.
Yeah, not a good discrepancy, and something I'm seeing tonight that you don't necessarily normally see from the Mavericks. They're doing a lot of jawing. You saw the official had to come back and stop Aaron Holtz. I don't know if they're letting the Beavers get to a best of them or kind of be that a little annoyance, but they're certainly creeped under their skin just a little bit here. The Beavers have.
So far, Minnesota State is outscoring Bemidji State 11-7. And they are going to switch the call here. That's not going to be in favor.
Yeah, to the dismay of the crowd, but this is the correct crowd. That's a good job by the fire official there coming in and making the correct call there. It definitely went off a Maverick defender, but kind of one of those situations where the ref didn't have the right perspective, being on the baseline, couldn't see the whole thing.
With 15 to shoot and roughly 8.5 minutes gone here in the second half, Bemidji State finds themselves up 9, and they're going to call a foul on Jamal Nixon. Beaver basketball underneath the basket.
That's his 4th, and one of the better defenders for the Mavericks. That's, you know, you got to imagine for the most part his night is done, rather than in the last 5 here to probably give a little bit of defensive help as best he can.
And then this is where you call on Quincy Anderson and Carson Ehrenholtz to step up major.
You know, this is the last opportunity to do so if they don't. So, you know, hopefully for the sake of some of these upperclassmen, and wow. Talk about a man playing possess on all facets of the game tonight, and that's number 3 for Bemidji State,
and that's John Morgan. As he's got himself 20, as Baumgartner finally gets himself into the scoring column, and that's his first bucket here tonight.
Man, you got to just, as a basketball fan, you got to be quite impressed with his poise and control of this team coming into, and there's number 4 on Kirksey. Here we go. This resembles how many of our most recent home matchups 2 weeks ago. Foul trouble from starters, very poor shooting percentage, lackadaisical defense, and you can see it written all over the faces of the Mavericks.
Ain't that the truth, though?
It's quite disheartening because at times they play such great basketball, like as if they are the number 1 team, and they are not doing that tonight.
And that's a nice board there by Anderson, as he was not allowing anybody but himself get that. As Baumgartner will pull the quick trigger of the 3, and Kirksey.
The emphatic call.
I don't think Kirksey touched that.
No, that's a tough one. I couldn't quite see it around the laptop in front of me, but yeah, I mean, another emphatic call from the baseline official. Same one who made the call, the incorrect call on the far baseline here a couple possessions ago.
As this student section for Minnesota State has been muted throughout this whole entire basketball game for the most part, except for the beginning of the game when Minnesota State made 2 easy baskets. And that is about as easy as it gets there for Landwehr.
Yeah, not necessarily the guy you want to come underneath to help there in the small guard, and Trey Baumgartner, and not able to get up there and contest the pass and an easy turnaround lay-in for the Beavers.
Ash, corner 3, short.
You know, they've had a semi-chunk of decent looks. They're going to call it on the floor. No progression there for John Morgan. John Morgan grimacing in a little bit of pain there. Now a smile on the face as his left ankle, it seems to be a little tweaked.
And this second half is a little bit of a different feel for the most part. The only thing that's really different is the foul trouble, as they're not allowing anything here this second half, the officials.
No, and I mean, they're all definitely the correct calls, at least from what I've seen from my vantage point. And they're in trouble. I mean, it's 11-point game, 9.5 left. You're at home. You got 2 starters with 4 fouls, one a big defensive starter in Jamal Nixon, and then, of course, probably the best scorer on the team, Cameron Kirksey with 4. And lately, Kirksey's been able to find his fouls with much ease, not just in this game, but in ones prior. And now they got 9 minutes and 29 seconds to turn this ship around, or else it's PP good night for the Mavericks, and we'll see you next year.
And to me, the biggest stat that stands out is the offensive and defensive boards for Minnesota State, as they are one offensive board away from being tied on the defensive end.
You know, and you're going to look at those things, and, you know, you did the best you could. If anything, you out-rebounded them down there in that end of the court. But I guess really what's got to happen here, if any team in the conference is capable of making a run to get back in it, this is going to be your Minnesota State Mavericks time to do it, and it's got to happen right now, because this clock has been moving at a quite a fast clip here tonight. Not a lot of dead balls and large chunks of minutes coming off the clock in between the media timeouts without stoppage.
And a large amount of minutes that we don't really see from the bench here this evening, as the starters have struggled and everybody on Minnesota State has. As here's Krieger yet to get in the scoring column, as last time out he was with 14 against Bemidji State. He'll himself take a 3 and finally gets into the board, as he got himself one heck of a big 3 there.
It only took 31 minutes into the game, but he got it, and now they got an opportunity. He might be the spark he needed right there to get going for the Mavericks.
And now Minnesota State will go into a zone of themselves, and that specific is a 2-3 zone.
Well, and that's credited to the work of Thompson and Landwehr. Wow.
And right on cue, Landwehr receiving it from Colin Chase. And my goodness gracious, they put it back up to a double-digit lead.
Yeah, emphatic alley-oop. And, you know, you got to credit the staff of the Beavers. They've came in here with one heck of a game plan.
Yes, they have.
They've had an answer for everything the Mavericks has done. They go into 2-3, quickly do a good job of running the baseline. Ill-advised turnover, as John Morgan lets the team know that one was on him, as he just mishandled the pass.
And Kevin Krieger finally getting some action here, as he's got himself 5 points here early on. Cameron Kirksey finds himself with 7, and he has a team lead out on the floor as of right now. Krieger, pull up, feeling it. That one falls short. Anderson just out of his reach of the offensive board. And they will go back into the 2-3 zone, as John Morgan looks at Boshi to get some direction for an offensive play call. Hoffman receives a screen, and that's a nice tip by Quincy Anderson. Picked up by Kirksey, ahead to Quincy Anderson, and one! As that's a huge and one for Quincy Anderson, and that could be something of a different nature for the Mavericks.
Yeah, good job of the Mavericks running the floor, getting in the correct lanes, and a good finish by Quincy. Definitely needed right there at that moment in time, and great effort all around by the Mavericks in transition.
And that was just great body control by the lefty here, as he's going to shoot his and one, but there's going to be a timeout called by Bemidji State, as Boshi kind of wants to kill this little 7-0 run that Minnesota State is on.
Yeah, good time for it. Settle down, get refocused, and see what you can change here to get back after the Mavericks. The Mavericks may have found a little spark, ignited by Krieger there in his 5-point swing, and a good run on the floor by the Mavericks and Quincy Anderson for finishing.
And that's exactly what Minnesota State needs as of right now, as they find themselves down 7 with a 7-0 run here. And Jordan, I'm going to take a look here going down this stretch. Now you got Krieger and Kirksey into this game. Are you going to keep Kirksey out there until he fouls out, even though he's got 4?
Yeah, I mean, it's a do-or-die situation, win or go home, obviously. And you need him out there at this point. What you got to tell him just to go play hard.
Yep.
He's, it's kind of like an injured Carlos Anderson, You're only getting half of the guy when you got 4 fouls. You're a little tentative playing defense, or maybe not as aggressive on the defensive side. And right now, I mean, you can't have that. You're down 7 with a chance to be down by 6 here. 7.5 left. You need your best players on the floor. I mean, you can make an argument either way for sure. But right now, I mean, he hasn't necessarily done a whole lot to help you because of the foul trouble. Let him stay out there and just tell him, hey, play aggressive. If you get 5, you get 5. You already put yourself in this boat. Let's not float around in ambiguity with it, What's the point of finishing the game with 4 fouls if you're not able to play aggressive and at 100%? That would be my take on it.
My question is, I wonder if they're actually going to let him play the physicality that Kirksey likes to play with. That's a big free throw there, as it's an 8-0 run for Minnesota State.
He wouldn't be out there if they didn't want that.
Well, I'm talking about the referee game.
Well, yeah, I mean, he gets a little lackadaisical. As a whole, every Maverick player can get a lackadaisical on offense. But that's a little bit of a product, too, of playing man. You get tired and a little bit more fatigued. With the zone, you don't have to help defense, and that might be why they're in this 2-3 now, to kind of simmer down and let those long-rangey bodies, as you saw Kirksey there, get the block, and a foul is going to be called on Aaron Holtz, if I'm not mistaken, under the basket. No, excuse me, Quincy Anderson.
And that's on Quincy Anderson. But they're going to say it's a 1-and-1 here for Landwehr, as I don't think anybody was aware, unless they did say they switched it to he was shooting, which I didn't think he was. I thought he was just trying to collect the ball.
Oh, it does look like both teams are at 7, though. And that's going to be something to keep an eye on here, too, down the stretch. Is talked about in the first half is the free throw shooting. Each minute, each second that ticks away here, it's an 8-point game right now. And those free throws can start to make or break you.
And
each one.
And Minnesota State is 4 of 8 from the line, as Quincy Anderson goes a little too strong on that layup.
Yeah, had a difficult time. Much taller defender, had to get it up and over his reach, but too high and too hard off the glass.
As John Morgan is directing traffic for his teammate Chase. With 15 to shoot, they're taking their time here on the offensive side. Looking for Hoffman in the corner, not there. The entry pass to Landorf. Morgan will take it. And that goes right in the hands of Landwehr, but he can't finish. And Bader will go to the line.
Yeah, good effort. I mean, they didn't get it to fall, but that was a good all-around effort. You see that 2 guys crashing the board and getting each other's rebounds, and that's a little bit of what the Mavericks are missing down on their end. They're still within striking distance, and that's the thing here. If they can play some solid and string together some solid possessions defensively, and they can get right back in it with a couple made shots, it's not too far-fetched, but the way it's going, you almost don't feel that mojo that it could turn that way. It's certainly a possibility. We know that about the Mavericks, but right now they are not doing anything to help their case.
As Bader makes the back end of 2.
I think this is a smart decision by the Beavers. Although they got burned there on it, the Beavers did. That's a smart decision to put in pressure on them the whole way. Really make them eat up that every possession clock, every possession they get, make that time come off the clock. And you see that they got a lot of backups in there right now. Your 3 guards are all backups. And you gotta, if you pressure them, you expect the younger players to make more mistakes than veterans, of course. And I think that's logic the Beavers are going with. Put the pressure on them in a playoff scenario and see if they can overcome it for themselves.
As Bumgardner makes the first one, and he'll make both. And that's huge, crucial 2 free throws there, as it pulls it within a 7-point game for the home team, Minnesota State University.
hopefully this sense of urgency the Mavericks are starting to feel here as the clock ticks down will really just kick their effort into overdrive here, because that's what they really need. I think once that vice starts to get a little tighter, you understand where you're at and you got to get going. And they played well in this 2-3 here, maybe not grabbed the loose ball or gotten the rebound, but they've done well to create some tip balls.
And Bemidji State has actually not shot the ball well in this 2-3 zone, but giving up another offensive board. And my goodness gracious, that's 10 they have allowed to Bemidji State.
And that just does not win you basketball games right there.
Oh!
Yeah, gonna get it on Bumgarner on the arm. Ever so slightly, it seemed like from up here. And now the Mavericks closing in on the double bonus here. After this one, next foul, other than the offensive variety, they'll be Beavers, that is, will be shooting too.
As Hoffman makes the first, and so far from the free throw line tonight, it's been a better percentage for Bemidji State as they are 10 of 11.
Yeah, and that's what, you kind of look for, or not kind of, that's what you want to look for down the stretch, in a very, very high shooting percentage from the stripe for the Beavers. And, you look at this, the Beavers actually look like they're playing like the #1 seed tonight, Mavericks have struggled offensively. They definitely had some bright spots defensively, but not enough to string a lot together. Three ball long, no good from Bumgarner. Rebound by Landwehr. And we're going to get a very aggressive jump ball call. And possession will stay with the Beavers. Or go to the Beavers, rather.
And I kind of like the intensity that Minnesota State's playing with, because they're playing with like they have a fire lit underneath them.
Well, you kind of have to. You got 5 minutes left in your season right now. 5:07 if you want to be completely on top of it here.
And I'm pretty sure they want to continue playing basketball, especially going to South Dakota, and I believe it
starts on March 3rd, the rest of the second round of the conference tournament.
And if we take a look at the next rounds, they will play Sunday, the quarterfinals, on March 3rd. Their game won't start till 5:30. Then they won't play the semifinals match until Monday, March 4th. We will luckily be on spring break at the time, so they won't have to miss any school. But that game will tip at 8 p.m., and then the championship match will be on Tuesday night at 7:30 in Sioux Falls.
Here we go. The high-pressure defense now trapping everything along the sideline. And that's a good job of John Morgan. I mean, it's very simple and not difficult in terms of basketball tasks, but staying in the middle of the court and not allowing those guys to trap you. And that's a good defensive possession.
Excuse me, sorry.
No, you're fine. We both had a point to make right at the same time.
Excuse me, that was Griffin Chase. Kirksey, turnaround, very long there. And Coach Matt Morgenthaler is furious, as Kirksey himself was looking for a foul along with his coach.
No, you can't. You just got to get back and play hard. You can't ask for this stuff, because at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. The less focus you put on what's going on right now, that's going to hurt you more.
As John Morgan's little 11-foot floater will go. This is Bumgarner, corner three, short. Into the hands of Kirksey, but he'll be fouled by Hoffman. And he'll go to the line shooting a 1-and-1 right after this TV timeout. And they were within within 7. Now they find themselves down 11.
Yeah, your life, your basketball life is on the ropes. They got you in the corner. They're throwing the body punches. Are you going to be able to stick a jab and get out of this hole and make one final push here? Right now, the Mavericks are not showing that they have enough gas, but see how it goes here. Just under 4 minutes left in this contest. Down 11. Both teams will be in the double bonus, but not a lot going right for the Mavericks. Let's see what Coach Matt Morgenthaler has in return to have an answer to this and try to get some recourse of action to end this strong and, of course, be the victor in tonight's ballgame.
As we take a look at some of the stats so far, the field goal percentage for both sides, as Bemidji State is shooting 47% from the field and 41% from three, as they are 7 of 17 from beyond the arc. And Minnesota State, on the other hand, has not shot the ball well, as they are 33% from the field and only 20% from three-point land.
Yeah, and that certainly doesn't get it done, and that's not indicative of what a number 1 seed should be playing like. But here we are. Got 3 minutes and 56 seconds to determine your destiny in this year's NSIC conference tournament.
As Kirksey's going to go to the line to shoot a 1-and-1 with 4 ticks under 4 minutes to go. And we are in the second half here. If you are just joining us, it has been all Bemidji State so far here this evening, as they find themselves with an 11-point margin here. And it's been quite something to say, as we are in the heart of Mankato, as Kirksey misses that one.
Yeah, you got to start right here with this free throw now. You got to put those little steps in place. You got to make this. Got to go play good defense. Come back, have a good offensive possession, score. That's how you got to approach this now. Down 10. It's got to be little steps here, and you got to start, knocking each one down here. Each possession is a whole new game.
As Kirksey's at career points, 990 so far. And for Kevin Krieger, he's at 980. And they are doing nice trap defense here, as Baumgartner and Ehrholtz are definitely doing their job here so far. With 10 to shoot, John Morgan facing Baumgartner. He'll receive a screen from Bader. Kick it to Hoffman in the corner. His three's a no-go, and a fresh set of 30 for the green.
Yeah, and that's what you can't have right there. That just hurts you. That's another 30 seconds. They're going to have almost a whole minute this possession come off the clock with just under 4.
And that is one thing, ever since they've gone in that 2-3 zone, Minnesota State has struggled to box out on the defensive end.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're a team that plays man predominantly most of every game, and maybe it's a little bit different of an element to be in, if you will. It's different. You're on a man, it's easy to turn and box out. On a 2-3, you got to find a man. You got to get your butt on him, feel him out, and that might be a little bit more difficult for the Mavericks, as I said, who play a lot more man than zone.
As there's 2:50 to go here, Bemidji State with the basketball. John Morgan looking for some help as he's trapped at half court. Gets some help from his buddy Hoffman.
And you can see they want the ball to be in John Morgan's hand. The 1-3-1 trap here, and they're doing a great job of keeping it in the middle of the court, allowing that trap not to develop.
And that's a nice move there by Bader. But another offensive board. That one goes loose, but it's corralled by Bader in the corner. And they're going to call a timeout from Griffin Chase, someone that was way off from the basketball with 2:16 to go. And my goodness gracious, as the fans here, as their hearts continue to sink just a little bit more.
Yeah, awfully quiet in here. That's a good call by the Beavers there, calling that timeout. The ball started to bounce around a little bit, getting out of control. Wanted to make sure they maintained the possession. I mean, at the end of this possession, if they do intend to hold it the whole shot clock, they're going to be under 2 minutes. And that's 4 possessions if we break it down into that, but I highly doubt it'll be just 4. But right now, the Mavericks got to find something. It's now or never, because time is of the essence, and it's certainly not in their favor right now.
As the timeouts, as that was a 30-second timeout for Bemidji State, they only have a full timeout left on the side of Minnesota State. They have 3 of their 4 timeouts still remaining, and that could be crucial coming down the stretch, as you could easily go on a 10-0 run here, as you got 2 minutes to go and do something with it. As they might have to play the hack game if they do decide to make a couple threes here.
And that would be the guy you would probably want to do that.
As Krieger and Baumgartner are the only 2 that have 1 foul between them. if Kirksey and Nixon get a foul, as that's a nice defensive stance there from Kirksey without fouling, as Bumgardner will go, and that's a foul on Ja Morgan, his 4th.
And I think that's a smart foul there for Ja. You know, you don't want to give him an easy 2. You're under 2 minutes. You don't want to give him an easy 2 here and let him. You make him earn it here. You got to have him shoot the 2 free throws instead of letting the lay-in count for 2.
That was a nice pass there by Jamal Nixon to find Bumgardner streaking up the court.
It certainly was. It was a good job splitting the 2 defenders there and making it a tough angle for Ja to defend.
As Bumgardner clanks the first one off the front of the rim. The second one goes nothing but net. And it's a 9-point game with 5 seconds under 2 minutes remaining. Ja Morgan receiving some pressure, and that's almost a strip there by Bumgardner, as they almost have 1 second to get it across half court. And they're going to use their final timeout, and that is Bemidji State, as they are out of timeouts, but they will be shooting 2 if they do, in fact, get fouled.
Very, very sticky predicament here for the Mavericks. Down 9, $1:45 left. Hasn't quite been your game, but what can you do to finish here? As a sort of a sullen riot has fallen over President Arena. Bit gloomy, you can almost feel it, that it's come to an end, but there's still time. When you really break it down, it's a 3-possession game here. Stranger things have happened in basketball and the sports world alone, but do or die here. Need big defensive stops and big 3-pointers on the other end.
As the Mavericks and the fans themselves are praying to the basketball gods right now, saying, "Oh dear, my dear, help us out right now," as they do not want to go home and end their season right now, as it could be a possibility. I'm not saying it's a for sure thing. They will have to wait for that selection committee for the NCAA Division II tournament. But so far, this could possibly end the ropes in NSIC play.
Well, you know, Bemidji's came in here with a do-or-die attitude, and I think they've really taken on the simple fact that they got nothing to lose, and they've certainly played like it. They played hard-nosed, gritty, very tough under the basket and in the paint, and they just made it a very difficult night all around for the Mavericks.
As they have still yet to get it across half court. With 10 to shoot, Hoffman from the wing, and poked loose by Jamal Nixon as he goes and picks up the basketball, and they're going to call a charge, as that will be Jamal Nixon's 5th, and he'll find himself taking a lonely stroll back to the bench.
None other than number 3, Ja Morgan, for the Beavers, stepping up and being a veteran presence there for them. The junior takes a big charge, holding his left hip. Both Morgan and Nixon are a little gimpy in the waist and hip area after that.
As he did take quite a fall there.
No, they definitely had a serious body contact there. And as you said, Nixon picks up his 5th, and that will end his night with 1:25 left in the contest.
And one person I'm surprised to see who's not on the court was Krieger. Kirksey at the moment that was. He came back out, but we haven't seen much of the two of them, as the combination for both have only combined for 13 points.
Yeah, neither of them really could find their rhythm tonight. Kirksey shooting 37.5%. Krieger shooting 25%. Carlos Anderson going down with an injury. You know, both Krieger and Kirksey average 17.9, just under 18 points a game for Kirksey and just under 15 for Krieger. Combined total 33 points for them, and that's just about or a little under a third of their scoring in most outings. And when you have that kind of performance by both of them, this is almost the outcome you can kind of expect here.
And this crowd is everything. And they're just shocked. And to be honest with you, I am too, as this was probably one of the most lackluster performances we have seen from Minnesota State, especially shooting-wise.
Yeah, and it couldn't come at a worse time.
And that's a nice defensive stance there, as they almost got that 5-second call.
Yeah, and they're just playing hard now. You dug yourself this hole. You can almost feel the end of it.
As there's an easy bucket for Hoffman, and that's a nice block there by Quincy Anderson. As Quincy Anderson had a nice defensive stop there and plows right through. And here is Bumgarner. They're going to call a foul on John Morgan. And there's his stroll back to the bench.
Yeah, all that excitement started as emphatically head coach Matt Morgenthaler thought there was a little forearm shiver from Jaw as he does pick up his 5th there with 1:11 left. Got away with a little forearm shiver push off there on Aaron Holes and make the easy inbound pass there because of that.
The little forearm shiver to the grill.
Yeah, he'll definitely get someone to back up.
As here's Bumgarner, as he's proved to be somewhat of a consistent basis from the free throw line on the season, as he shoots 80% so far, and he's had himself quite a night so far on the free throw line. As we take a look at Bumgarner's 5 for 6, shooting just a little over his season average.
But collectively, 60% from the line is not going to get it done.
No, it definitely isn't. And there it is. And he said they stepped on the line, as the student section does not agree with the call, and neither does the crowd.
And it's under 2 minutes, so they will be able to go to the booth. Or excuse me. Jeez, I'm not a football player or anything. They're going to go to the scorer's table.
As they're going to hold up play here. In fact, I think they're going to...
They are at the monitor, and I do believe that's what they're going to talk about.
And they're going to say that 2 out of the 3, both referees that had a look at it, both said that he was already out of bounds. So I don't think they want to go and review it, as they will just get it into Griffin Chase. The skip pass to Hoffman at center court, and it's going to be from behind. And they're going to call Quincy Anderson, and Hoffman's going to line to shoot a pair.
Mavericks have done a pretty decent job here in this pressure, but the Beavers, as a rebuttal to that, have done a good job of slowly bringing that guy back to the middle. In the press, when a team presses, they want to trap you in a corner or along the sideline. And so when that ball gets back to the middle, it's quite obvious that it's very difficult to trap a man in the middle of the court, as there's many options to go with the ball.
As one thing I just ended up picking up, we have not seen Carlos Anderson since the halfway point of the second half.
Yeah, and I think the decision was ultimately made that the trade-off there for defensive ability for offensive prowess was not on par or substantial enough to keep him in the game.
As he'll make the first but miss the second. Clock just under 1 to go. Here's Jawan McLeod. Quincy Anderson, pull-up 3 from the wing, too strong, and they're going to let that one hit the ground out of bounds with 50 seconds to go.
Don't know if that's necessarily the guy you want taking that shot with some of your other options out on the floor right now.
I don't know, maybe if that's the guy that you didn't want to shoot the ball. I don't know if that's the shot that you necessarily wanted.
Yeah, I think you're right.
As it was contested, but you'll take that 3-point, and they're going to call a foul on Kevin Krieger. And Coach Matt Morgenthaler's living. He's got to be able to calm himself down, as he's almost borderline of getting a technical foul.
Yeah, you don't want to do that here. I mean, you're already in a hole down 8. if you were to get that technical there, that really puts the dagger in it there.
And they are actually letting Matt Morgenthaler, they got him on a long leash here tonight, and that's kind of nice to see.
Well, it's maybe more the intensity that we're seeing rather than what's being said, but yeah, usually when a coach is going like that for too long like that, no matter what he's saying, any human would get sick of it.
Yep. As he'll make the pair to go up 10 with 45 seconds to go. Here's Bumgardner on Allen Anderson. And Coach Matt Morgenthaler is still completely oblivious. And Griffin Chase will ice this one, in fact, indeed.
Wow.
Ehrenholz from the horn, possibly his last shot, as getting dressed in a Maverick basketball uniform. With 23 seconds, shot clock is off, and I believe you can say this one has written itself. With the Mavericks find themselves down 12, 65-53. They got it into Krieger. His shot from beyond the arc is long and a no-go. Into the hands of Bumgardner, and he'll get the and one. Foul on Allen Anderson. Bumgardner back to the line.
Well, at least to the credit of the Mavericks, they're playing right down to the last second. That's a good finish by Bumgardner, getting the rebound, being able to put it back down, but down 10 with the possibility of being down 9 here. It looks like the time is just about to expire on this campaign.
As he makes that one, as he finds himself 6 of 7 from the stripe. And they're, in fact, just going to play the foul game here as Bumgardner will foul and pick up his second. And this is just an absolute heartbreaker and stunning loss for the team in white.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very hard pill to swallow, if that's how you want to look at it here. We'll touch on it here at the end of the game, but many factors here that played into this very, very sour tasting loss here for the Mavericks. Assuming, well, not assuming, but barring an unforeseen miracle here with 13.8 seconds left.
And as you just got that shot of Coach Matt Morgenthaler, and Carson Ehrenholz right there, his floater is a no-go. And that will be his last game, and possibly Carlos Anderson's as well. It will definitely be the last in this building, as Bemidji State with an absolute stunning upset here in Mankato, defeating your Minnesota State Mavericks 66-56. And Jordan will be right back with the Maverick halftime show presented by IT Solutions.
Recent Minnesota State Mankato graduate Jacob Ball has a big idea: become a bilingual family physician serving rural America. As an honors student and varsity athlete, he studied Spanish, biology, and biochemistry. He also volunteered at a Mankato medical clinic and studied in Ecuador. He's now in medical school, one step closer to bringing his big idea to life. Big ideas, real world thinking. Minnesota State Mankato. Go further at mnsu.edu.
And Jordan, that is a disappointing way to end this season and this run Minnesota State men's basketball had here.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you said it, a very depressing and kind of a letdown for a first-round game, and we spoke about it early on. There's nothing to lose for a team like Bemidji,
Nope.
number 8 seed in the North, coming up to play the number 1 team in the South, the Mavericks there, and they came and played with reckless abandonment in a good way, in a way that's efficient, and they knew what they had to do, and they did an excellent job shutting down Krieger and Kirksey up till almost a little past halfway in that second half. Krieger hadn't scored a point, and he had been over.
He was scoreless for 31 minutes.
Yeah, and that's something that you don't expect out of one of your star players here, especially in do or die time. And they didn't perform defensively. They just did not play really well from the beginning. They had those 3 straight possessions of 3 balls from 3 different players, and that really kind of started that swing right there, and that really put the Beavers into a prime position, being up almost 10 points very quickly. So they got a lot of things to work on going into next season. Again, a young team in general, much like other teams here that have been successful here at Minnesota State. They just didn't do it. They fell into old habits, foul trouble, shooting very poor. 60% from the free throw line, and that's never going to get anything accomplished for you in a playoff basketball game such as tonight. And all around a very poor performance, and I'm certain it's not what the coaching staff and head coach Matt Mergenthaler was looking for. But sometimes you got to take these ones on the chin, and hopefully as a team, the Mavericks can grow from it, get better, understand where they're inefficient, and also, capitalize and get better where you are efficient. So there's a lot to be happy about. I know it doesn't seem that way going forward right now, obviously this given moment here, but young team overall, very talented, I think, and promising going to next year. And I hate to bring that up, and that's not necessarily where they wanted to be putting their focus tonight, but Mavericks come up short here in playoff basketball, and that's how quickly the one and done thing can happen to you. And it struck them tonight in a well played game by Bemidji, a great game plan, and got to tip your hats to them.
And one of the things here is they could still possibly get in the tournament, but the likelihood of that is they got to have a lot of stuff go their way. But the final score, 66-56, Mavericks drop a heartbreaker in the first round of the NSIC play. And Jordan, another chapter is closed on this broadcasting
season down.
And I can't wait to start the next one up. If possibly the weather cooperates.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
We'd like to thank, on behalf of Jordan and I, we'd like to thank everybody behind the scenes that sets all this up for us and makes it a whole lot easier for us on a day-to-day basis, coming in here and doing what we love to do.
Absolutely. And
we just want to say a shout out to you guys, and a shout out to the fans there that continue to watch this program, as it's just been beneficial to us. And we just hope you, one last time from Breslin Arena inside the Taylor Center, we would like to wish you guys a nothing but happy and good greetings, and the best of luck to you guys. And Jordan, we'll be back in a few weeks' time.
Hopefully. We'll see how the weather goes. But as you said, we'll be back at it, and so won't the Mavericks here, as there's many other great athletics coming up here the rest of this spring season.
Exactly. Men's baseball and then softball coming up, so we got that to look forward to. The final score, Bemidji State 66, Minnesota State men's basketball 56, excuse me. And with that, we are signing off for the final time. Thank you, and have a pleasant evening.
Go Mavericks.
Recent Minnesota State Mankato graduate Jacob Ball has a big idea: become a bilingual family physician serving rural America. As an honors student and varsity athlete, he studied Spanish, biology, and biochemistry. He also volunteered at a Mankato medical clinic and studied in Ecuador. He's now in medical school, one step closer to bringing his big idea to life. Big ideas, real world thinking. Minnesota State Mankato. Go further at mnsu.edu.